This is part 62 of my series on my N-gauge model railway project. Previous parts cover the project from its inception through the creation of the baseboard, selection and laying of track, building of scenic items, obtaining rolling stock, etc. The project is ongoing. This part is about some more Union Mills model locomotives that I acquired recently. 2 of these were bought directly from Colin at Union Mills, thanks to a previous commenter for letting me know how I could get in touch with Union Mills, as they don't have a web presence. The other 2 were bought used. One from Rails of Sheffield in effectively new condition, and the other on eBay in rather distressed condition. That one required considerable work. This is the first loco that I have actually bought directly from Union Mills Models. I'd searched previously on the internet, but not found any contact information for them, and indeed no retailer who stocked their models, so I had initially been buying their locos where I could find them, generally used on eBay, which is how I discovered them in the first place. A commenter on a previous video featuring a Union Mills loco suggested that I should buy directly from Union Mills and indicated that I could do so by telephoning. The commenter provided a number. I telephoned. I'm in Canada, but transatlantic phoning is cheaper now with voice over IP, and a couple of weeks later my first order arrived, and here it is, or half of it anyway. Actually, come to think of it, it wasn't 2 weeks later, as when I first telephoned the models that I wanted weren't in stock, but new batches were being made, and so once the new batches came in 2 weeks after that, I received my locos. And here is the City of Truro, a classic locomotive by anyone's standards, and as usual a good solid model from Union Mills that runs and pulls well. I imagine pretty much anyone interested in railways in Britain knows at least something about the City of Truro, since it's one of the most famous engines, most notably I suppose because it was the first steam locomotive recorded as travelling at over 100 miles per hour, albeit somewhat unofficially without proper instrumentation. It is, in essence, from the point of view of the Big Four period, an older-style passenger express loco. Indeed, it was built in 1903, well before amalgamation. Nevertheless, 440 engines were still commonly used for passenger express duties at the time of amalgamation in 1923. I was very pleased to be able to get this model from Union Mills. Here it is, pulling a little train made up of 3 4-wheel Great Western coaches that I picked up recently from a local seller on Kijiji, with a GWR bogie brake bringing up the rear. Since this was a brand new engine, it was of course run in before being put to any duty. It showed a slight hesitation to start at first, but after running in it ran very smoothly in both directions and at surprisingly low power levels. I'm sure this loco would have no trouble pulling a much larger train than this, since, as is usual with Union Mills locos, it's heavy and tender driven. But for now it has so far only had this light duty. This is the other loco that I bought new in my first direct order from Union Mills. This is back right in my central area of interest, the London, Midland and Scottish being effectively my family railway, and the Midland before that. This is an ex-Midland 2P in LMS livery. These were very widely used passenger engines with the Midland at the time of amalgamation, and they went on to do wide service with the LMS, since LMS loco policy was very much dominated by Midland thinking in the days following amalgamation. These locos could move fast, but they weren't terribly powerful, hence their 2P rating, the 2 indicating the level of power and the P that they were passenger engines. The compound 4Ps were similar in appearance, but much more powerful, hence 4 versus 2. Ironically, I have several models of 4Ps, but this Union Mills 2P is actually, as a model, more powerful than any of those. Here it is, pulling a train of 5 coaches up the incline to the viaduct on my layout. It had no trouble at all with this train and could, I'm sure, pull more. I did manage to get this same train up the gradient with a Graham Farish 4P model, but only after adding bullfrog snot liquid traction stuff to the wheels to aid traction. The same day that my order from Union Mills arrived, I also received this loco, which I bought used on eBay. This one proved to be quite problematical. It's a T9 class locomotive, originally London and South Western Railway, then Southern Railway after amalgamation, and here in post-nationalisation British Railways livery. I don't model post-nationalisation operations, so I always intended to redo this model into Southern Railways livery, but it turned out that I had other problems to deal with first. The loco as it came simply would not run. Some response could be got from it, but it wouldn't go more than a few inches without either cutting out or short-circuiting the controller. I had quite a time with it as there were multiple problems. The first problem I detected was that the wire connecting the loco and tender was not properly connected at the loco end. This wire is required to pass current from the loco, which picks up on one side, to the tender, which picks up on the other side and houses the actual motor and driving wheels. With the wire being loose, power wasn't being reliably passed to the motor in the tender. The loose wire may have also caused short-circuiting. However, even after I fixed the loose wire, the loco still persistently overloaded the controller. Bogies are often suspect in a case like this, so I took the bogie off, and sure enough, without the bogie, the loco ran fine. So then I had to examine the bogie to see what the problem might be. To cut a long story short, the problem turned out to be that someone had disassembled the bogie, and when they reassembled it, they put the axles back in the wrong way round, so the pickup wheels, the ones electrically connected to the axles, were on the wrong side. So instead of picking up power, they were short-circuiting the power from the loco body back into the other rail. Once the bogie was reassembled correctly, the loco functioned perfectly electrically, in fact running smoothly with low power levels. It did, however, still exhibit problems with the bogie showing a tendency to derail, and I haven't really been able to entirely fix that problem. Also, another issue was that, as can be seen in this picture, someone had taken off the regular couplings and replaced them with bits of bent wire. I could possibly install NEM pockets and use NEM couplings, but for now I've left the bent wires, as it is possible to hook those up to Rapido couplings. I should mention that the vendor on eBay, when I told him of my troubles with the loco, was sympathetic and refunded 50% of the price I'd paid for the model. He'd actually been selling the model on behalf of somebody else, I believe. Having fixed the electrical problems, I went ahead with my original plan to change this loco to Southern livery. First, I painted over the British Railways logo and running number with gloss-back enamel, using gloss because I wanted to apply decals, and those won't take well on a matte finish. Once the enamel dried, I applied decals. I bought a set of Southern pre-war letter and number decals from Fox Transfers specifically for this project, though they may also come in handy for other things. Here you can see that I've put Southern and the running number on the tender, as was the practice in the 1930s, and I've also put the running number on the buffer bar. At this point I had forgotten to paint over the British Railways running number on the smokebox door. Here's another view of the loco at this stage, this time without flash. And now I've painted over the BR number on the smokebox and given the loco a coat of satin finish after masking the wheels, etc. So here it is, ready to go back into service as a Southern Railways engine. And here it is on the tracks. After a bit of checking out, I gave it a train of four-wheel Southern coaches to pull. These came from the same local Kijiji seller as the GWR four-wheel coaches we saw behind the City of Truro. Oddly enough, they're all brake coaches, making a rather strange train. The T9 class were known as Greyhounds, presumably because they were fast and smooth runners for their day. They were originally designed right at the end of the 19th century, but as we've seen, they continued in service right up until British Railways days. Here's the odd little train running past the woods, and down past some new odds and ends of building towards Colville Station. And here, coming round by the scrapped-off goods shed. The loco basically runs fine now, except for the tendency of the bogie to derail, especially on diverging points. It isn't the only engine that has that problem, but it's a frustrating one to try to deal with. Here's the Greyhound with its train at rest in Colville Station. Now back to the 2P, here pulling a train made up of Caledonian railway coaches. The Caledonian, a Scottish railway, of course, became part of the LMS upon amalgamation. I'm not sure to what degree coaches in Caledonian livery might have still been seen in LMS days, but I don't have any Caledonian engines as such. I picked up one four-wheel Caledonian coach a while ago from Tiny Railroads in Delhi, Ontario. Then I picked up a Caledonian bogie coach on eBay, and just recently from that same Kijiji seller again, I picked up two more Caledonian bogie coaches and one more four-wheeler. So here are all of my Caledonian Railways coaches running as a train behind the Union Mills 2P. The 2P shouldn't have any real trouble pulling this train, or indeed a longer one. Here's the 2P pulled into the back of Colville Station along with the City of Truro and the Greyhound. Not really a very appropriate mixture all in the same station. But we take some liberties in modelling. Finally, here's the last of this batch of Union Mills locos. This one was bought used but effectively in new condition from Rails of Sheffield. It's another southern loco, also originally a Dougal Drummond design for the LSWR in the 1890s. This one came to me in southern livery, so there's no need for repainting and decalling. This is a 700 class, an 060 tender freight engine. Since this is a freight engine, I gave it a little southern freight train to pull. I did run it in first, as it appeared to be essentially in new condition, and the running in did indeed seem to bring the loco to running more smoothly and with less power. These southern wagons all came from the same local Kijiji seller as the other rolling stock we've seen in this video. So this essentially served as a running trial for the wagons as well as for the loco, since both were new to me. I'm pleased to say I did not experience any running problems with this loco. Of course, being an 060, it doesn't have any bogie or pony truck to derail. Bogies and pony trucks helped locos round corners in the real world. However, in the model arena, they largely seem to be a source of problems, often leading to derailments. This model didn't come with a running number on the buffer bar. I may use the Fox transfers to add a number at some point. Here's the 700 by the cattle dock with its little train. So now let's see some running video of these locos on the layout. Okay, this is the Union Mills Southern Railways 700 class 060 tender engine, which I bought from Rails of Sheffield, used but effectively in pretty much new condition. It came, I mean, it was used, but it didn't seem to have been used much. It looked brand new pretty much. It was in the box with its papers and whatever, and in fact I ran it in and it seemed to respond to running in as well, so I don't think it had even been run in. It responded fairly noticeably to running in and used considerably less power after it had been run in. I mean, it went fine right from the word go, but I had to change the power level on my sound box down just to stop it moving after it, progressively as it was run in. It used less and less power to move. So this wasn't one of those used locos where you have a struggle with it, as I did recently with another Union Mills loco that was used and had been messed around and abused. This one was used but essentially pristine. Well, and I paid a pretty much the new price for it. So it's just pulling a small freight train here. It could pull a much longer freight train than this, no problem. They could pull pretty much all the Union Mills locos. These are just a few southern region wagons that I picked up recently on Kijiji. There was a local seller, well, about an hour and a half's drive away, on Kijiji, who had a whole bunch of and we lost our coupling. Well, let's see if we can back up here. We were doing fine all that time, but then for some reason the coupling between our engine and our front wagon there came undone there. And I don't know why, except to say that Rapido couplings are, it's not not uncommon, is it? Torpedo couplings are not very certain things at the best of times. I just don't, I've got so much rolling stock, I just don't see trying to change it all over to caddies or something. Anyway, there you go, very nice little engine. Because it came this way, this one I haven't done anything much to other than running it in. He could pull 2 or I bet he could pull 3 times this many wagons, quite readily. There you go. The Union Mills 700 class engine. Okay, now I'm going to try to bring out another Union Mills engine, but this one I bought used off eBay and I had a lot of problems with it. I've got it running electrically okay now, but I'm still having a bit of problem with its bogie derailing over points, so we probably will have some trouble with it, especially. Almost certainly we will have some problems here and there. Let's just bring it a little bit further forward than that. This was originally a British Railways engine. When I got to have the British Railways livery, I painted over the British Railways livery and put Fox transfers on to convert it into a Southern. And I've got here behind it, I've got a little rake of Southern four-wheeled coaches which came from the same my recent Kijiji purchase. I went up to Newmarket and bought a bunch of stuff on Kijiji, and he didn't have many coaches at all, but he did have these a few things. He had a few oddball coaches actually, including quite a number of four-wheel coaches. They're all brakes, which is a bit odd to have a train made up of nothing but brakes, but that's what he had. He just had 4 Southern brakes. Now that bogie, I'm looking at that bogie, it seems to be perfectly well railed now, but somewhere around here, possibly going over the level crossing or something, it gets so it's not railed properly, and then when it's not railed properly it won't go over that point. Oh, it got over that point this time, there you go. So we actually succeeded in getting him round the point without derailing the bogie this time. I've done what I can with it. I tried to make it as level as possible, and I oiled the axles, because that's another reason bogies will sometimes derail, because their axles are a little balky and they get pushed backwards, and that gets them off the rails. Ooh, we got him over that point twice. Whoopee. But I certainly that wouldn't give me confidence to say, oh, we've fixed the problem. I wouldn't go that far to say we've fixed the problem, unfortunately, because of these problems do tend to recur. But still, the other thing about him, I don't know whether you'll see in the other pictures as well, is he doesn't have regular couplings. Someone took his couplings off and just put bits of wire on. But they seem to work up to a point, so for the moment I've left them. Okay, now let's see a Union Mills loco that I actually bought new from Colin at Union Mills. And a beautiful loco it is too. This is the Great Western City of Truro. There you go. The Great Western City of Truro 440. And I've got 3 Great Western 4-wheel coaches, and since none of them is a brake, they're all just composites. I've got a non-corridor bogie brake on the back behind him. And the 4-wheel coaches came from that recent Kijiji purchase of mine. I drove 1.5 hours up to Newmarket to look at a bunch of stuff that was for sale, and bought many wagons and a few coaches here. this engine has been running, but that's all it's done so far, has been running and then pulled this little train. I'm sure it would pull a much longer train quite happily. I just haven't got around to trying to do so yet. It is, of course, essentially, although it was preserved, I mean, it was essentially an early Great Western loco. There she is, very handsome loco, and as predictably, since this came brand new from Union Mills, this touch wood, I haven't had any problems at all with this loco. Was a little bit hesitant to run when it was when I first got it. A little bit hesitant to start, but that went away with running in. That's natural enough. And after once run in, it runs nicely with quite a low amount of power and runs very smoothly. And like all great Union Mills engines, you know, it's a very solid engine that goes up the gradients with no problems because of the way that they're engineered. Considerable weight, and they're tender driven, which is of course not realistic, but it does make them more reliable as pullers in N gauge. Okay, now one more Union Mills loco. We'll change the points here. This is an ex-Midland, an LMS. Took it a little too slowly. Got him stuck. Famous last words, you don't very often get Union Mills locos stuck, but I have got him stuck. I took him a little too slowly into the gradient and got him stuck. Got him stuck there on a, I don't know. Let me try. Let's try that again. There we go. Alright, little more power into the gradient. He could pull that train up the gradient fine. I just took him into the front of the gradient there a little too gently, and he lost traction on a slippy point on the rail. There he is. That's an ex-Midland 2P. It's a sort of non-compound 440 in LMS livery, and he's pulling a rake of Caledonian coaches, because as it turns out, I've quite a few Caledonian coaches now. I picked one four-wheel coach up from Tiny Railroads, and then I picked a bogie coach up on eBay, and then recently I picked up another four-wheel coach and two bogie coaches with my recent Kijiji purchase. So that's my entire stock there of Caledonian coaches, 2 four-wheel coaches and 3 bogie coaches. One of the bogie coaches had a broken bogie when I got it, which I've done my best to repair. Well, I was thinking of replacing it, but I'm running out of spare bogies, and it seemed to be repairable, so I've repaired it. And we'll hope, I think it's the one, not the back one, but the one in front of the back one. Now we'll try and not get stuck here again. I don't think we'd normally get stuck there. he was just going a little, I just took him a little bit too slowly into the gradient there, and his tender driven, his tender wheels just lost traction there, and I couldn't quite get it back. Again, I bought this came together with the City of Truro. I bought the 2 of them brand new from Colin at Union Mills, thanks to the person who posted the contact information in a comment in one of my previous videos. So I'm now in touch with Union Mills and can buy directly. And I bought this one and the City of Truro at the same time. A little bit of trouble with him. What he's doing there? I guess his wheels are turning. He's just losing traction a little bit, and the bogies on these coaches may not be the best. which probably doesn't help him. I don't think that's going to be a major problem. It's just that those coaches might be a little tricky. Should we take him around one more time just to see how he does? Again, like much like the City of Truro, he came brand new. I ran him in. There was no problem with him at all. They were both a little hesitant to start off, when they were new, because they hadn't been run in. But once run in, I hadn't noticed this before, but I think a little problem with this guy losing traction. I don't know what's happening with him. Anyway, hopefully it's not a major issue. We'll see how it goes. But so there you go. The City of Truro, not City of Truro. This of course is the Midland 2P with a train of a Caledonian Railways coaches, which were really pre-amalgamation, and then Caledonian Railway was amalgamated into the LMS. They probably wouldn't have continued to run coaches in Caledonian livery for very long after amalgamation, but anyway, there you go. Clock chiming, the Westminster chime of the 3/4.